Hello and welcome in. It's always college football. It is Sunday. We are happy to be with you. We are doing some rapid fire reactions from some of the football games from last night. I was on the call for Georgia and Auburn, the Deep South Soldiers rivalry. I actually just got back to the house a little while ago. But man, live, what a scene. What a scene in Jordan-Hare. Georgia gets the job done. Crazy game. I can't recall at least a game that I've done in this profession. I've done this now 10 years in the booth. I've never seen a game flip quite like that, where it was one-sided for the first 30 minutes, and then all of a sudden, one mistake inside of 2 minutes late in the first half, that fumble gives Georgia new life. They steal points. They're now down 3, go from down 10 or 17 to down just 7 in the blink of an eye, and then all of a sudden it was all of them in the second half of that football game. I've never seen anything like it. It was absolutely insane. Heart breaks for Auburn fans. Continue to be remarkably impressed with Georgia's resilience and the way they go about their business, man. They never give up. I mean, I think Gunnar Stockton kind of said that in the post game. Look, we never give up, and my goodness, is he right? All right, what a Saturday we had. If we could, before we get into some of the conversation about the games, go to the podcast platform of your choosing, subscribe to that podcast. And then if you could, just go ahead, check us out on the ESPN College Football YouTube page. And if you haven't left us a rating yet, go ahead and leave us a rating too, because we found that a lot of the people that are actually downloading our stuff and watching our stuff, they're not actually subscribed. So make sure that you subscribe just so we can get you our stuff a little bit faster, a little sooner, and maybe a little bit more nuanced. All right, let's dive in. The biggest matchup of the weekend, the Indiana Hoosiers go to Eugene, Oregon, and knock off the Oregon Ducks. What I found funny about this, everybody has said this, and I fell victim to it, if you want me to be completely honest. I actually, watching the game, I actually thought that Indiana was the superior team. In preparing for the game, that was my assessment. But I thought to myself, you know what? Going on the road, going in 3 time zones over to the West, that has not been a great recipe for teams in the past. I think Oregon wins, but Oregon wins close. I'd take the points. That was my assessment and the pick. I do not need to be swayed by home field environment as much as I once was. I'm not saying it's not important. It's remarkably important. But Autzen Stadium is not an impossible place to go and win. Yes, it can be done. Yes, it's hard. But when you have a team that is that good in Indiana, they will be unfazed completely by what's going on in the environment around them. This is a very veteran group, and they played like it to the tune of 30-20. This was such a great football game. I really, really enjoyed this. I'm looking at this. You have one of the longest home active win streaks in 18, I believe. You have one of the longest regular season win streaks with Oregon to come to an end here as well. And this was really the opportunity for Curt Cignetti. This one meant a lot more to Indiana than it did to Oregon. And that's not an indictment. That's not a referendum. This was a validation point for Curt Cignetti, a rallying cry for this Indiana Hoosiers football team, because what was the conversation last year? Oh, well, they didn't play anybody. Oh, well, they didn't beat anybody. Oh, well, they got in, but you know what? Were they really deserving? Were they really that good? You think that wasn't heard in that locker room? You think that message wasn't reverberated all throughout the Indiana players? You don't think that was a rallying cry in the building as they prepared for this game? 100% it was, and they came out swinging. This was one of the biggest wins in Indiana football history. And if you look at it, this was their first victory over a top 5 opponent since beating Purdue in 1967, their first victory on the road in their entire program's history. It was one of the best quarterback duels, but it was one, obviously. A couple mistakes, by the way, on both sides. Like Fernando Mendoza was not perfect. The pick 6 illustrated that. There were so many examples in which he's making throws that are tougher throws than you realize. He makes them, turns the tight corner, and did an amazing job. But this was an awesome game. We will dive into it a little bit more on to this afternoon show, this evening show. I want to make sure I watch some of the tape to figure out exactly what it was that Indiana did. But some of the big picture takeaways in this game, Roman Hemby and those backs for Indiana, those guys run so hard. They're so underrated. Elijah Surratt was off the charts, continued to win one-on-ones. And I thought there were a couple possible pass interference penalties that weren't called, and his day could have been bigger. If you look at how things went for Fernando Mendoza, the numbers aren't going to necessarily blow you away. But if you look at the level of precision, the decision-making, the processing, there was an awful lot to like about his performance. And then, of course, Indiana's defense. The star of the game without question. Constant disruption, constantly getting to the backfield and having an effect on Dante Moore, having an effect on how things went along the offensive line. Yeah, they got gashed a couple times on the ground. Man, that defense, told you guys last week, dude, that's a good group now. They are a good group. They're a disruptive group. Their defensive coordinator, Brian Haynes, is one of the best defensive coordinators in all of college football. Absolutely love this game. Cannot wait to watch the tape and get back with you later this evening to tell you a little bit more about what I saw. The USC Trojans knock off the Michigan Wolverines. This one was not a huge shock to me. We took SC in the game. We felt like SC was the more complete team, the superior team. And while people kind of jumped off the SC bandwagon after the Illinois game, we kind of acknowledged that that was a disappointing performance. They still had a chance to win, if not for giving up the 2-minute drive in the game-winning field goal. Still had a chance to win, and that was after they had played a game till about 2 o'clock in the morning Eastern time on Saturday the week before, had to come back the following Saturday and play at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So I think their circumstances with their start were a little bit tough to kind of wrap their head around. I think this is a good football team. I think they are improved on defense, and I think they proved that in this game. I think the offense is running much, much better than it was at any point last year. I think Jaden Mayava right now is playing as well as just about any quarterback is in college football, and the numbers support it. Going into this past weekend, he was number one in terms of total QBR, number one in terms of quarterback rating. So the numbers reflect how good he's been. But if you look at this team, they can beat you. It used to be the pathway for Lincoln Riley coach teams. The pathway to victory was winning a track meet or whatever it may be. That's not the case anymore, man. They have a lot of avenues to success. And it was exemplified by how they ran the ball down the stretch last night, how they were able to kind of get things going on in that aspect of their offense. They've always been a very good run team. But to put the game on ice against a team like that in Michigan that is built to stop the run, that has recruited to stop the run, that was enormous. And this was a very difficult game for Michigan, I think. This was a tough matchup. And I look at just kind of where things are and where Michigan's heading. In order to win a game like this, you have to be able to create issues for the opposing team by way of putting pressure on the opposing offense because you could fill it up on the scoreboard. And they're just not built like that just yet. Now, defense travels. I love where things are. But when you rush for only 100 yards, just over, when you have a couple turnovers, when you go 2 for 9 on third down, when you possess the ball for just 26 minutes, you can't win that way. I loved what I saw from SC. This was exactly what I wanted to see from them. I put them in the playoff in the preseason. I'm feeling more validated now in watching this team's progress as the season goes along. I think they are the one team in the Big Ten that can completely throw a wrench into the equation. We know Ohio State's going to be there. In all likelihood, Indiana's going to be there. I get the sense that Oregon will probably be there as well. I think that fourth team could very well be USC. We'll go next to the Red River rivalry. All right. This was such a big game for Texas, and we'll have a bit of a takeaway on this when we do our 10 takeaways show. But this was such a big game for Texas. Back against the wall, gotta have it situation. A lot of soul searching done after a 3-2 start. A lot of disappointment had in the locker room after starting the season as the AP number one team. Now they're out of the top 25. Like, this was one of those games where it's like, all right, boys, us against the world, let's go and get it. And while it was not a flawless offensive performance at all, very much the opposite of a flawless offensive performance, I feel like this win demonstrated a level of grit that I wasn't sure Texas had, if you want me to be honest. Like, this performance required doing the dirty work. This performance required doing things that are not necessarily fun. This performance required playing in a phone booth and bringing a lunch pail and with a hard hat. And that's not really been Texas's MO the last couple of years. Like, I watched Texas the last few years. Like, they're great when things are fun. Like, hey, unaccompanied rush to the passer. Perfect. Love that. Get a guy out in space. Offensive linemen are pulling and knocking guys over, and they love that. They're great. Getting into the track meet, they're great at that. But Texas, there was a question for me with Texas is, would they be willing to do the dirty work en route to a victory? That was an example yesterday of progress that was made. And while I think that Oklahoma's offense is severely hampered right now, because I don't think their offensive line is very good. I think the receivers are good, not great. And I think their quarterback is clearly not at 100%. How could you be? The fact that he played was pretty remarkable. I'll give him a ton of credit. But this Texas defense, they were our number one ranked defense in the preseason going into the season. They were still in the top 5, top 3, what have you, through the first 5 weeks of the season. And if you look at their 3-2 record, it certainly hasn't been the defense's problems. Like, the defense has played very well. But this was taking things up to a whole new level, turning the football over. They forced a few of those. They were in relentless pursuit. It felt like the whole game, John Mateer was running for his life. Did it not? It felt like the whole game, he's moving, he's sliding, he's getting hit. I feel like these edge rushers really woke up in this game. And it was necessary for that defense to dominate because they can. And this was a game where it's like, whatever defense plays better is going to win, because these two defenses, super elite, top 5 units in the country, whatever defense performs at a higher level, that's the team that's going to win. And whatever offense doesn't screw it up, they're going to win. Well, guess what? Oklahoma turns it over 3 times. Texas turns it over 0 times. Yes, while neither team lit it up offensively, Texas had just 302 yards of offense. They did the little things. Turnovers and special teams play. Ryan Niblett, 75-yard punt return to the house. That was enormous. Down the left sideline, that will be a play that will be run over and over and over again in Texas history as we talk about the Red River down the stretch. So this was a gutsy performance from Texas. It was. Not flashy, not sexy, and I loved every second about it. That was the performance that I want to see from Texas. As far as Arch Manning is concerned, I thought he was fine. I thought he made the touchdown throw. I thought was a nice throw. Layered it up and over the defender, back of the end zone. Like, there's been progress made over the last 2 weeks from Arch Manning. And the big thing in this one, he didn't make mistakes. That was the key. John Mateer did. As a result, Texas gets the win. Huge win, back against the wall, got to have it situation for the Texas Longhorns. Moving on to Alabama. I know I feel like we say this every week. That might have been I don't want to say gutsiest, because that doesn't feel right. Like, going to Georgia 2 weeks ago and breaking a 33-game home win streak is probably the gutsiest, toughest situation that Alabama's head coach, Kalen DeBoer, has faced. This was a maturity-defining win for the Crimson Tide. Like, this was a game that would challenge your maturity in every possible way as a team. And then this was an impossibly, I said this all throughout last week on this show, on other shows, this is the hardest spot on the schedule for Alabama. This game against Missouri on the road. Why? You're coming off a bye week. You go and play on the road at Georgia. Super physical game. You know you got to ramp it up. You know you got to play at a high level. This team is unbeatable at home, what have you. Got to play at a high level. They do. They have the revenge game against Vanderbilt after what happened last year. Vanderbilt, revenge game, highly emotional game for the Crimson Tide. And guess what's coming up next week, the 3rd Saturday in October? So in a 4-game span, you get the most physical game of the year at Georgia. You get the revenge game that has you highly emotional against Vanderbilt. And you have your 2nd or 3rd biggest rival coming up in the 3rd Saturday of October next week. Probably 2nd. Some people would say 1st, whatever. However you order the 3 rivals for Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, LSU, however you order them, beside the point. You look at those 3 games in 4 weeks, And the one sandwich game that's sitting there is a road trip to Missouri against a top 15 football team that's very good on both lines of scrimmage, can run the football, which is giving you fits, and it's an 11 a.m. kick. All those things are incredibly difficult to overcome and prepare and to be ready. And frankly, the way things started in this game, Brett Norfleet, first drive, touchdown, and they went right through him like a hot knife through butter. You're sitting there thinking like, oh boy, here's the flat spot. And then boom, Alabama and Kalen DeBoer and Ty Simpson answer right on that first drive in a big, big first down on third down several times throughout the course of this game. I mean, a handful of big third downs from Ty Simpson, a couple of huge fourth downs from Kalen DeBoer and Ty Simpson there on the last drive that gave Bama the 10-point lead that ultimately won the game. Ty Simpson continues to play at a really high level. Did have a very difficult moment there early in the second half where he got sacked, fumbled, looked like he might have hurt his ankle. Like, was worried about him in that moment, but this was kind of a gutsy performance. It was not going to be one where it was all about flash, high-powered, big throws, long touchdowns. This was going to be a gutsy, gut check type of game. That's what Missouri requires, and I thought he actually lived up to the test. I actually thought Bo Prabula played pretty well under the circumstances. Yes, the stat line will read a couple of mistakes. Stat line will read a couple of critical issues, a couple turnovers. One of those was in got to have it situation, end of the game. It happens. I actually thought Bo Prabula displayed a level of toughness, and he is disruptive now. Like, I think if you ask any Penn State fan, if Bo Prabula was still at Penn State, would the record be different? I happen to think it might be. This guy is a good football player. I enjoyed watching him play yesterday. I also look at Jam Miller. We'll be curious to see, like, he ran very hard in this game. He had 20 carries for 85 yards, and that doesn't necessarily tell the story because not a lot of those runs were clean. There were some where he had to negotiate defenders, and while he's not breaking open into the open field for 30, 40, 50-yard gains, he's getting you 6, 7 or so, 6, 7, 5 dirty runs where he's running through contact and finding a way to fall forward. So this was a gutsy win, I think, from Alabama, a really, really good one. One that I think people will look back on at the end of the season and say that was a really difficult hurdle, and the fact that Alabama could overcome it was significant. No hurdle right now for Ohio State is too big. Ohio State is a juggernaut. They're borderline on the verge for me of an auto play every week. Like, if you look at them as, I don't care what the spread is, Ohio State's the side. You know what I mean? Like, they are. And it's obviously matchup dependent. Some teams match up better against Ohio State than others. Illinois is not one of those teams. Illinois is a team that does make some mistakes from time to time. They turned the ball over in this game. Ohio State continues to play play smart football, play decisive football. And while the numbers are never going to necessarily blow you away from time to time when you watch the Buckeyes, like, they don't care. And that's what I love so much about where they're heading. The fact that they look at the defense, 21 points off turnovers, huge. The fact that they allowed less than 2 yards a carry, huge. If you look at Davis and Igbinosun in the time that I was watching him, it looked like he was really sticky in coverage throughout the course of the game. Did not get to watch the tape of this one yet. Look forward to getting into it, tell you exactly why it happened, how it happened. But this Ohio State team continues to just deliver and just stress opponents to the point in which it's just too much. They're just too overwhelming. They're too good along the line of scrimmage. They're too good in the back end defensively. And unless you have legitimate high-level firepower, you're going to have your hands full against the Buckeyes, man. Just so much respect for what they're doing right now. All right, let's buzz through the rest of the top 25. Ole Miss, what a weird game, by the way. First of all, weird scheduling game. You got Washington State coming to town in the middle of October. Like, what the heck was that going? Like, that is a strange, weird, odd setup, but I digress. Washington State came to play now. Ole Miss, super flat, couldn't finish in the red zone there early in the game. This was a look-ahead spot to the highest degree. Ole Miss going to Georgia next week, coming off a bye, super flat. As a result, the offensive execution lacked. They were fortunate to get out of that one with a win. A&M handles Florida. Game was close. A little higher scoring than I ever anticipated, that's for sure. Marcel Reed sounds like he had a pretty good day. This game was on at the exact same time as our game, so I was only able to watch a little bit there in the bottom right corner of my screen. So I couldn't tell you exactly how it happened. I will later in the show today. But A&M with another nice win. That's a good win. That's a tough Florida team. I know their record's not going to reflect that, but that team's physical, and A&M is very, very good. This is a legitimate top 5 national championship contending football team. We talked a little bit earlier about Georgia and Auburn. Everything that could go wrong went wrong for Auburn in the second half of that football game. The level of craziness, and I guess you could say how deflated the whole environment was after that fumble was remarkable. It was about to jump off. It was about to go bananas there. They take a 17-0 lead to halftime, and that fumble, man, just completely changed the outcome. Auburn could never get momentum back. Georgia deserves a ton of credit because that was a really gutsy performance from the Georgia Bulldogs. LSU and South Carolina, another notable 20-10 game, just like Auburn, Georgia. LSU's defense continues to be amazing. It sounds like there's still a couple things. This game was going on at the same time as ours. Like we said, this game was going on. But LSU, South Carolina, I think those two teams, very good on defense. I need to go back and watch the tape, though, and tell you what's going on with the offenses of both. Because based on some of the numbers that I saw, did not look like the offenses had a very good day. Offenses did have a good day, though, however, when Tennessee and Arkansas got together. This game really, the final score looks a little bit closer, at least from my vantage point. This game was finishing up when we were getting ready to come on the air, so I didn't get to watch all of the fourth quarter, but Tennessee was in complete control, kind of called off the dogs a little bit. A couple of big mistakes from Arkansas early in the second half gave Tennessee momentum and allowed Tennessee to build a bit of a cushion. And then all of a sudden, Arkansas, like gangbusters, climbs back into it and it gets dicey. But either way, really good rushing performance, I think, from Tennessee. Really good overall performance from their offense. Just defensively, that Arkansas team's a tough team now. They are good on offense for sure. So impressed very much with Tennessee's offense. Defensively, though, they definitely have some things to clean up. Georgia Tech dispatches of Virginia Tech. BYU gets a win over Arizona. We had Arizona in this game, and it looked like it was going to be right. I mean, Arizona's in cruise control. It's 24-14, fourth quarter, looking like Arizona's going to handle business, and then boom, BYU climbs all the way back, forces overtime. Thought for a second they might go for 2 at the end of regulation. They end up surviving in overtime when Noah Fafita's fourth down pass to the left sideline falls incomplete. That was a gutsy win, man. You got a true freshman quarterback who's in a 10-point hole, has a couple of mistakes in the game too, so has to compartmentalize his own performance. He played very well down the stretch in order to flip momentum and get things back on their side in order to get the win on the road against a pretty good Arizona football team. I think Arizona's very solid. Nothing to be ashamed of there. Notre Dame ends up pulling away from NC State. Very good performance there in the second half. Sounds like the defense did a pretty good job there in the second half as well. It's looking like Notre Dame is rounding into form because that NC State team is not bad. And to make mincemeat of them there in the final 30 minutes is something to be impressed with, I think, as you move forward. I do think Notre Dame has things to iron out when it comes to their short yardage situations, but we can get to that at another point. Colorado upsets Iowa State. This was strange. This was a very, very strange game when you watched it because I thought this had a chance, by the way, to become a little bit higher scoring, and it just never really got going. But to stuff a 4th-and-1 attempt at the 18-yard line, that was ultimately massive, and that was ultimately what gave them the win. So that was huge. Arizona State gets rolled by Utah. Can't say it's the most surprising thing I've ever seen, especially with the backup quarterback. Sam Levitt's very good. I thought Utah was probably going to get this one and get this one convincingly. South Florida on Friday, by the way, dispatches of North Texas. Their pursuit of that G5 playoff spot still very much in a good spot. You also have Northwestern that knocks off Penn State. Penn State's sitting there at 3-3. We'll talk about them on tomorrow's show as well. Goodness gracious alive. Congrats to Northwestern. But boy, oh boy, things are not good in Happy Valley. And then Pitt dispatches of Florida State in what was a very, very entertaining game, an entertaining finish to the game. The game ended on an offsides. It was just wild. But either way, Pitt has themselves a quarterback, and Florida State has a lot of things to iron out on the defensive side of the football with what we've seen the last couple weeks. All right, that'll do it for us here on the Sunday morning edition of Always College Football. Check us out a little later this afternoon. We're going to go buzz the tape. We're going to go dive in, and we're going to go make sure that you guys have all the takeaways later this evening when we put them out. So let's go watch some tape. Let's go have ourselves a day. For all of us here at ACF, from Mark, Jake, Jack, the other Jack, intern Sam, I'm Greg. We hope you have an amazing day. And remember, it's always college football.
Hey guys, it's Greg McElroy. Thanks for watching Always College Football. Make sure you like, rate, and subscribe to ESPN's YouTube channel and wherever you listen to your podcasts.